Practicing. It's different from playing music. And obviously it's important if you want to play music in front of people. The way I think about it, practicing, is when you're working on how to get more effective at expressing your musical ideas. This can be like trying to improve your technique or your pitch or your sound, or just working on specific passages of a musical piece. Practicing is useful to the extent that it helps you become better at doing that, more in touch with your instrument. Playing music is when you're actively expressing your musical ideas, and when you're doing this, ideally you're in a flow state, in touch with the moment, and rather than thinking about how to play your instrument better or how you need to take a big breath in that one spot that you always mess up, or really to be careful at that one moment. Instead, you're just listening to the people around you or focusing on what you're trying to play and focusing on just the emotion of the moment or the sound, or just you're in a flow state, not really thinking at all, actually. So if you're prepared for a performance you're giving, you won't really feel the need to think about minutia of like, oh, I hope I nail this part, because you've already done it enough times in the practice room that you don't really think about it. You don't need to, and you just kind of enjoy playing the music. There's a time when I used to think that if you just practice enough, you spend enough days and enough hours of each of those days working on the instrument, that you'll just become better. And I don't think that that's really true. I think you need to actually have goals when you're practicing and try to reinforce good habits. If you're just repeating etudes and pieces that you're supposed to work on, or scales, and not really thinking about how you're trying to get better, you're just kind of reinforcing however it is that you play. And maybe you're getting some muscle memory down or getting better, just, a broken clock is right twice a day. But there's a big opportunity cost, because you could actually be working with goals in mind and trying to become better in a concerted way. And then with the extra time you all of a sudden have, you could, play more video games or become better at cooking or hang out with friends, stuff like that. So when you're practicing, you should always have a goal. And the goal could be like, I want to play this passage cleanly, or I want my sound to be more clear, or I want to learn this song in all 12 keys, things like that. If you don't really have a goal, you're just kind of messing around on your instrument. That's not really practicing. That's just kind of either playing music for fun, which is cool, but it's not practicing. So if it's important to you to get better, then it's good to know the difference, so that you actually make sure that you do get enough practice time in, so you're actually making progress on your instrument. Another thing to always do when you're practicing, is use a metronome. Because, why not use a metronome? And it's not going to hurt, at least. And when you use it properly, you're not just relying on it to keep time for you, you're actually using it just to keep you honest as you internalize time and rhythm. Then it's good, and it builds good habits, which is the whole point of practicing. Another thing that you should do when practicing is stay positive. And that can be hard when you're keep on messing up and not really reaching the goal that you're setting out for yourself. Some ways to do that are to take whatever goals you have, and if you just can't do it, break it down into a more workable sized chunk you can actually accomplish in that day, in that session, because then you'll feel good about yourself, and you are doing something then, instead of just being discouraged. Another thing you can do to stay positive is if you just get really bored because you're working on something that you don't want to work on, just don't work on it and work on something else, because there's always another day. And if you need to work on it, then make sure you set some time to work on it later, but work on something that you can make progress on instead of just feeling negative. And it's important to stay positive too, because if you're playing the tuba, if you're discouraged and angry, your body tenses up, and that's just really bad for your technique. It's bad for you as a tuba player. You're not going to take as relaxed breaths. You're not going to think as positively about the music. And it's better just not to practice than to practice angry or sad or something, because then you're just really not making any progress. And another way to stay positive is to take breaks. And it's important to take breaks because it lets you practice more time. If if you play for 30 minutes straight in the high register, you're probably going to be pretty tired after that. But if you practice for 10 minutes and then take a 10-minute break, and then practice 10 more minutes, take a 5-minute break, practice 10 more minutes, take another 5-minute break, you're probably not going to be tired, but you practice for 30 minutes. Your mind works in the same way too. So if you do think about the same problem, for an hour, you're going to be pretty tired of thinking about that problem. So it's important to take breaks so that you can come back fresh and keep on approaching it with a clear mind. And also your attention span lasts longer. It's more effective. Types of practice. There's learning a piece. There's working on technique, practicing fundamentals. There's transcribing, like listening to someone else playing something and try to play it yourself. There's also just musical study, like, learning about music theory, about different rhythms or harmony. So all those kinds of practicing involve working on things that are important for the short term and long term, but some of them help one time frame more than the other. Like practicing fundamentals is more of a long-term exercise. Learning repertoire that you're supposed to learn for recital or something is more of a short-term exercise, but you can do them in combination. So if you're learning a piece that's really long and slow, you have a hard time just like working on it because it's really boring. You're just playing it by yourself, like if it's a piece for two and piano. And all the cool stuff is in the piano part. It's not very fun to just play these whole notes, for an hour a day for a month by yourself. But if you can think about how to work on it in terms of like sound and just focusing on this way you get in between the notes and your rhythm and focusing on your tone as you play it, your sound concept, have a vision about how you want it to sound, then you're working on the piece and on other things, and you're not going to get as bored. So you're kind of doing something that's short-term beneficial because you're learning a piece of music, but also in the long term you're improving your sound and other things. If you're working on a piece that's like really fast and complicated, you can work it as an opportunity to work on clarity or sight reading, although it's probably just, it's a task in itself. So just by virtue of working on it in a way that you're actually playing it instead of just faking it, you're improving your technique probably. So if you have like a show that night and you don't know the music yet, it's pretty important to learn the music that day, and that's a good example of something where you need to work on music, learning music, because you're gonna make a fool of yourself if you don't. In that sense, do the short-term thing, but if you don't have something that you need to do that day or that week, it's a good time to work on your sound or work on your fundamentals or try transcribing some music or study something so that you can become a better musician. And then when you need to do rep, then you approach it from a more enlightened place than if you hadn't spent that time working on more fundamental aspects of musicianship. So just to recap, stay positive, have a goal, use a metronome, and take breaks. Hope you found this useful. I'll make more videos like this in the nearish future. The idea is to give some thoughts and ideas about tuba playing and musicianship and music in general. So if you liked it, feel free to subscribe. So, hope you enjoyed it.